Welcome back, guys, to episode 2 of Levels Podcast. I'm still in my dungeon in Dubai, seeking shelter and taking refuge while leaving Joey in the US to run the company. Thank you, Joey. And
There we
also,
go.
while he's making me look very unprofessional by having zero background when he's fully branded. So I feel like a complete amateur right now. Thank you, Joey. You've really made me look bad here.
We're doing it. We're doing it.
So this episode, I think we left off, we're going to cover over the release of Stampede, which is Joey's first product that he's really headed up and developed. And then we're going to touch on relationships and the way that me and Joey have progressed, but also in a broader spectrum, like how relationships should be valued, deemed, and how you should be looking to build relationships within your given industry. So I'm actually going to pass this one over to Joey because this is more of his story and his journey to guide you through. So, Joey,
Let's get it.
Stampede was your first, where you've been involved from the get go. Literally, me sitting down and coming up with a formula, and then sitting down with you and saying, "Hey, buddy, you want anything else in here? You want anything missing? What do you think?" Like, this is the first time you've been from the get go of actually requesting a product, and then all the way
hmm
through the formulation. So, how has that been for you as opposed to just coming from getting a message from me saying, "Hey, we're going to drop this new product next week"?
Yeah. So for sure, getting the message saying the product's going to release is probably, 1,000 times easier than actually being in the front lines of developing and the whole back end of a product. And a lot of people, I mean, for people that don't really know, we always just see the final product. You always just see whether we're posting like, hey, we're about to drop a product or the release of a product, but you never really get to see of what goes into it. And now I get to actually sit here and say that nothing goes as planned. I always am over on Joe and, saying to Joe, like, oh man, what the hell's going on? Like, this was supposed to release 2 weeks ago. Now we're 4 weeks. Like, where's the product? But you never really understand and really get to go into the depth of how these things actually occur and how it actually goes into developing a product. Because listen, creating a formula might be, I think, one of the easiest things for maybe me and Joe because Joe is so very intellectually built into this industry. But I'd say it's probably the easiest thing because that was done the day after my show on a piece of paper towel with a pen. I left Joe at my house for a couple minutes, like we were telling you in the last thing. I went to go get some breakfast with my girlfriend Sarah, and literally we came back, and Joe's like, "Yo, man, we got to sit down. We got to talk about something." And literally, that was like almost the easiest thing that me and him coincided and bounced off on was right then and there. Now, everything after that, building the pre-workout was actually it was a whole lot of emotion. It was excitement. It was a lot of frustration. It was a lot of like anticipation because what people don't see is everything that goes into this product and everything that goes into actually, I think every product that AD's ever released. And I've never been absolutely like involved in that. Like I said, I've always been on the sales side. So I've always been on, cool, Joe sends the email over, lets us know what the price is, what we're going to drop it online, how everything is going. And I never actually been involved into the procedure of this. Now with me doing my first ever, this is going from the label to the container to the formula to the flavoring to literally the final product to any revisions. It goes down to so many different types of categories and so many trickle down effects that it's so in depth compared to just taking a product and here it is. Because now
And
dipping into
yeah,
a little bit, in the
just,
industry, I guess you could
just
say, multiple people. And if people don't know, you can go to a manufacturer, you can give them a formula, or manufacturing has a chemist, they develop a formula for a price point. We don't do that over here at AD. Joe's got a really cool background, which I'm going to tap in real quick. Joe is a purchasing manager and has built his relationship, the start of this podcast and the caption of this podcast. Joe has built his relationships with a lot of key people in the world, not in the US, in the world. And the reason of Joe's relationships that have coincided over 15 years of him being in business literally trickle down to even helping us pull ingredients that are very hard to come by and the purity of these ingredients to hard to come by because of those relationships allowed me to do something in a product, and that's 15 years later. So when you look at relationships, guys, and you look at what it goes into, this relationships is going to be the focal point of this, this podcast, but the relationships drop down into the product itself. From the relationships that Joe has had and Joe's cherished, it's allowed us to benefit with bringing us into, of course, an ingredient in the profile. My relationships, what did it do? My relationship with Joe has increased over the 5 years that I've been with this company. My relationship with Joe has grown and grown and grown and allowed me to finally do my first ever product. So the relationships in the key part of this world, guys, is massive. And the relationships will give you more and will provide more than any certification, any degree, anything that you can remotely imagine, because relationships have got me massive places in this world. Now, before we go into the crazy relationships, let's dip back into the pre, so I don't get all too much on a tangent. But the pre was super exciting for me to finally develop and get into, because once we built the formula, and me and Joe were very, very excited about the formula, we almost like separate ourselves. Joe went back, rolled down to our new manufacturing facility, got the formula to those guys, and Joe started working there in the lab with them to literally get us some samples for allowing himself and myself to try it. I threw him some flavor ideas that I had, and then on the backside, I started working on the label. Okay, so it's cool that, like, as the initial thought of the product begins, and now you will start to see the product actually get put into the work and getting put into like the functionality of building this product. So as Joe was working on getting samples and everything else, I was fortunate enough to start to develop the label. Now here we go. Relationships. I've been fortunate enough for myself to be able to, like I said, like coach as a part-time job. It's could be a full-time job, let's be real. But I've been fortunate enough to meet a massive, incredible, incredible people. And one of these people that I've met about, it's going to be a year and a half, going to be going on 2 years, of course, at a point this year. But I met a guy named Harlan Cantner. Harlan is a massively renowned tattoo artist. You can look at his work. I want to say that the man tries to almost win everything, but this boy wins awards at every shows, from his detail, from his imaginary perspective, that you could say, and everything. He's an incredible person. So allowing myself, I got the ability to coach Harlan. And Harlan, of course, is just a lifestyle person looking to look better, get better, and be better in every aspect. So I've been coaching Harlan, like I said, for about a year and a half, and I've always loved his artwork. Harlan's even done some tattoo stuff on me. But I literally was like, you know what? I had this really cool image for this bull logo that I wanted to put on Stampede. And we had to use the word Stampede. I had to. It was a pre-workout that when I came to this company 5 years ago, that was the pre-workout that we had out. And literally the only thing that people were complaining about at that point was the taste. But literally the product was awesome. It was a one scoop, two scoop, three scoop. It was super cool. But I wanted to bring back the name that like I originally jumped into the brand with. So we had to create that Stampede name, right? So then once we had like the name, and I got with Harlan, Harlan is incredibly busy, and Harlan is not cheap. But listen, at the end of the day, guys, nothing in this world that's really good, or anything in this world that is, across the board, that's, any which way you could describe it as being amazing, there's not a single thing in this world that is cheap. So the fact that Harlan could take his time and could do something for me for free was absolutely incredible. And this is where your relationships play out to where you would never, ever, ever think. My relationship with coaching Harlan has grown and built to where, like, he's not just a client, that guy's one of my close friends. That man helped jump in and do a lot of design work along with our guy Nick to literally build and create us this label. That alone helped me massively on two forms. One, because the design work was essentially done in-house, where Harlan was here at my table and I could literally physically benefit on bouncing things off and on. And two, it also saved us a lot of money here at AD with developing the product, which, when we develop a product and we're able to save money, Joe does it all the time and never says a word. If we save 50 cents here at this company, that goes 50 cents off the top price for the consumer. And that has always been a thing. And that's something that we never talk about. That's something that we never even, we never bring up, because we never really put our business stuff out there. But Joe does the utmost that he can with his relationships to be able to save us money on the back end, to be able to release products at a incredible dosing and panel for a very efficient cost. So allowing Harlan to step in and allowing to me to develop and use a relationship that I've had for a year and a half, I've now got us this awesome label. And then I got to send it to Joe. I was super excited. Joe spit some feedback. We were able to modify and change up some things, and we finally had the full design. So then from the design of the label, we kind of fast forward a little bit. Nick being able to develop our actual product label. Joe got all the samples done, set them up, and man, listen, the only thing that I think was kind of a little quick through this label, Joe, to be honest, was like When you sent those flavors were slamming. Because you guys, like, if you don't know, a lot of times developing a product, that flavoring bounces back and forth multiple times because manufacturing will send a sample. They will put a sample in there to literally kind of like see what you think, and then you have to spit back on what you want to do. But
That's
we
been the
rolled
big
them. We had these
benefit.
awesome.
That's been the big benefit of actually being in with the manufacturer. I've been able to save
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time rather than being across country like previously. Unless I would fly out and go to the manufacturing previously on the West Coast, it would be they would send a sample. I would request revisions. Like I want to change the amount of acidity, increase the sweetness, reduce the sweetness, increase the flavoring. And that could be backwards and forwards. You're losing a week, 2 weeks every time, backwards and forwards, like doing overnight meal. And
Mhm.
it eats time, and people don't realize that. And I just want to touch on because Joey skimmed over something, and he actually probably doesn't know this because nobody really does. And I've mentioned my purchasing background, and we can put more money, you know, more into the product because I put materials in there. A lot of people don't know that a lot of raw materials do come from China. It's just the way it is. A lot of raw materials do. In 2007, I was working for Disney. I did a year's placement to part of my degree for Disney, and I was buying from about 23 different factories all across China. And I actually had an agent who I developed a great relationship with in Hong Kong. So when you have all these companies picking up from these materials from China, it's hard to find quality materials. So what I'd actually do was I would have my agent get on a plane and fly into a factory and do a factory audit to make sure raw materials were being produced to standard and were of a quality that was deemed acceptable for us as a brand, not just taking any random raw materials from a Chinese supplier. No brand does
Mhm.
that. I know for a fact no brand does that. And that's relationships from 2007 that I've kept and financing that out of our own pockets, which nobody knows about, to actually go and have someone do an independent agent to go in and do a factory audit for me. So I have peace of mind that any materials I'm getting from somewhere is up to standard for our customers. And I know that no other company does that. It just doesn't exist. So these are a few steps that we do extra. I know Joey didn't know that because I've never actually spoken about it. It's just part of the process that I do, making sure that we have quality products. And those things take time. And before I pass back over to Joey, because there's a couple of things again that kind of get passed over. With Joey just being in sales previously, and he would come and ask like, where's this, where's this, where's this? Like you said, this was going to be this a time frame. That actually put a lot of strain on our relationship because he would be looking at it from a sales point of view. It's like, hey, we need this to sell. Hey, you told me this was coming. And me trying to explain to him just wasn't going to happen because he just doesn't understand. You can't understand unless you've been involved in the supply chain. Like how many things can go wrong? And it just sounds
Hands
like
down.
excuses after a time. I know I try and say something to him and he would be quite understanding. After a while, I could just tell he'd be like, that's just one thing after another. Because I'd be exactly the same. And his predecessor, I just couldn't have a conversation with in general because he'd be like, I don't go, I just want the product. I'm like, there's so much goes in. He wasn't teachable. Joey's teachable. So it's actually been one of the most beneficial things for me is having Joey involved more, which, is quite counterintuitive for me because I've always been independent, used to doing everything by myself. But having him close to me and having him see everything has given him a level of understanding and appreciation for everything maybe that was done previously or for why some things don't go according to plan, which I know he's going to touch on now. But that's
Yeah,
strengthened
massive.
our relationship more than anything because now he understands more of the back end, which he was oblivious to before, and quite rightfully so. Because if I was in his position, I'd be like, "The fuck you! It's always you and your excuses. Always you and your excuses." I'd think the same
Mhm.
thing. But now he's seeing it, he's like, okay. And now we're starting to build in that framework. Like, I build in so much time for a buffer, because I know there's always things going to go wrong. And now having Joey understand that and see him working through his processes and building these buffers, it just makes the whole process much easier. And the business relationship between us and the personal relationships just evolves to another level.
Big time, big time. Because like you don't get to you don't get to see how many things that go into something. Like I said, like even when I was on the sales side, like it was just like, hey, listen, we're going to drop this in 2 weeks. Let's get things right. Here we go. And then 2 weeks comes, and guess what? That product doesn't drop for another 4 weeks. So it gets super frustrating. And like there's a thing that happens where we dive into this relationship setting. The relationships is literally like, guys, it pans through everything. Like it pans through developing yourself in business, keeping business, creating business. It does it across the board because you got to think like when I go and I sell to these wholesalers, to all of my brick and mortar stores, my retailers, everybody, when I go and sell to these people, there's a relationship that is involved. Okay. Like, because at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of brands, there's a lot of products. The relationship at the end of the day, a lot of times is what brings a better, partnership in doing business 10 times over. So when these guys are looking for a product and a product's either out of stock or a product's not coming, like, the relationship gets a little bit hindered because these people are counting on you, and then all of a sudden like I'm counting on Joe, and then when the whole process gets messed up, it gets a little nasty. And I mean, I've gotten plenty of times I've been pissed off entirely, and Joe is known. But now being on this side, it is a massive learning experience for myself. Because literally, like I said, once we got the whole label done, and everything was finished, then it turned into the real stuff where it started to really almost like not go smooth, because then there was edits on the label that we had to do. There was things that were mistyped that we had to do. Now think of this. If you don't overcheck your work, which is another thing I learned, it's check your work, and then after you're done checking it, I want you to check it again, and then after that, Joe's going to check it, and then I'm going to check it, because literally, if we end up like not triple stepping or overlooking your work. Imagine if we released a product that had misled information on there. That's going to hurt us as a brand from either a consumer standpoint, or that's going to hurt us as a brand because we don't look professional. So all these intricate things play a massive role. We were supposed to be in a position where even developing a label, I am very big with, I've been in this industry for a while, right? Well, with also being in the industry, I also, quote unquote, whether you could say I have an eye for it, I'm a fan of it, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to label it as, right? I sell products in my own store, right? From multiple brands. And like I said, I'm a fan of this industry. So I like certain things other brands do. Now, developing our Stampede, what I wanted to like essentially deliver is your five sensory feels. Okay, your five. One is you're going to visually have to look at something, right? That's a visual setting. You want to be able to be walking into a store, and if my pre workout is sitting on the shelf, I want it to visually pop out to draw your attention. All right. So, with creating a very flashy and unique and dynamic label, that we were already checking off the box. The next thing is when that person picks that product off the shelf, there needs to be a feel. There needs to be something in that product on that container that's drawing you to it. And feel is a sensory, it triggers that into your mind. So with doing that, the label and the texture of the label was another big thing that me and Joe wanted to attack, because I told Joe I would like a lot of 3D features on it. I wanted somebody to be able to like pick it up and be like, "Ooh, what is this in my hand?" Right? That attacks your next one. Now the others we already crossed off the board. From a overall taste setting, we've nailed it. Okay, because in reality, and everybody knows, a lot of times pre-workouts don't taste good, whether it's the product that's in it to try to mask it, or literally it's whatever the ingredients are, they don't really kind of mix together with the flavoring, so it doesn't taste really good. We've nailed it. Our strawberry bubblegum and our orange tang were flawless, and we didn't even really have to make any revisions on it, because like when samples go to Joe, since Joe is in house at the manufacturing plant now, to literally, which guys, that's going to make us, that's going to change us as a company, which you will see. But the fact that it's there, Joe's already like testing things out and already getting that approval ahead of the curve, so me and him don't have to spitball back and forth on samples. So from a taste setting, we nailed it. Right now, you have one of the last ones. Okay, that's the feeling. And I can't wait till when you guys try this pre-work, and I can't wait till you guys actually get to feel this product, because it's amazing. And I'm not just saying this because it's mine, because there's other products that I've tried that I've loved. But when you take a product for over a month, and me and Joe have been using this nonstop, a little teaser, everything you've been seeing of Joe, it's him on that pre-workout. And a lot of times, guys, pre-workouts just caffeine with what? Some beta-alanine for some tingles. Cool. Anybody in the world can do that. People have already done that in the world. This product is built from literally every sort of angle, and this product has a reason of why it's built, which is going to produce the effect. So once we got everything situated on all the 5 feels, right? We finally got the label, and I remember Joe sending me a picture, and I was like, "Bro, what is that? Like, what's up with the label?" And all of a sudden, it was like, well, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "There's nothing on the label. It's flat." So we ended up running the label. It didn't end up having this crazy 3D feature, but it had a very flat and gritty feel to it with this holographic image. So like we wanted to go back and forth with it, but it came to a point that I wanted this to release at the end of the beginning of the year, and I wanted to release right away to set our pace and set our standard for AD. So once I actually got this label to my house, then we essentially approved it. But guess what? We literally just by the skim just got the product in time. Because what people don't see is yes, when the product's done, yes, when the product is finished and the labels are going in the container, manufacturing is a whole nother beast that people don't realize. That's a business that we cannot control. No matter how hard Joe tries, he can only control so much. Because we were literally supposed to have this product in house weeks before we've gotten it, which in theory, that's allowing us to develop content. That's allowing us to provide this to our athletes. That's allowing us to get all our chips in place. So when you hit that button on go mode, everything is ready to rock. Well, it wasn't ready to rock. We ended up getting to a point where we had to essentially, we ended up pushing it here to January instead of in December. And then as well, we got it here. And, we've been like 5 days of it being delayed because guess what? Can't control the weather. With us being, shipping out of our shipping facility in a different part of the US, storms and snowfall all play a role. So now that's even delayed us. But now we're ready to rock and roll, and today is actually the official launch. So once you guys will be hearing this, you'll already have seen that we've been rock and rolling and boogieing, but today is actually the official launch of the product. So when all this is all said and done, it's really cool to see like really how much goes into developing a product. Not just sending a formula to manufacturing, not just hearing the owner of the company tell you it's going to be here in 3 weeks, it ends up being here in 9. There's so much that goes into this product, and I think it's one of the things is that this might not go on for any other company. This might go on for, maybe just AD. But we take steps here at our brand to literally give you guys quality. Not just giving you something as a pre-workout where we make our money, you take it, you feel good. No, 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 no. It's the quality of these products. And like Joe said, like he's checking purities of these ingredients before they even get to manufacturing for us to deliver the product. So doing these things always adds time to the time frame. But that's what always makes us produce something incredible and something morally exciting for when we release a product. And now we get to finally drop that ball. So it's
Well,
awesome. It's awesome.
even down to this morning, Joey, where we're sending the web text backwards and forwards, going.
Now think
And
of this,
like
guys. That's
even there's a
24 hours
learning
out.
point, literally hours before this. Like even these learning points there that I try like remind Joey because like this is something I had to teach myself a pretty hard lesson at one point because I'm so far ahead, like with product development. When I actually get to releasing a product, you don't realize I've actually probably formulated that maybe a year beforehand, sometimes earlier than that. So for
Well,
me to
just
get
listen. Like
excited about a product,
well, think, Joe. Like just to cut not to cut you off, but think, bro. You developed a liver and a heart product when nobody was looking at health in our industry, and those are
hmm.
8, 9 year old products. This was
I
way before
developed the next
advanced.
iteration of Matador, dude, for in 2017.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We've not needed to drop it yet.
yep.
So for me to get excited about something's really difficult. So we're bouncing the web text backwards and forwards, and Joey's were a really nice web text, but it's very much like how we would want it displayed because we've got a really good knowledge of ingredients and we know the industry. So it's like, well, what do I want to know as a consumer if I'm buying a product as a
Absolutely.
owner or a vice president or as a really seasoned like customer? It's how many milligrams of this, what's in it, what can I expect? And I had to remind Joey, I'm like, Joey, go back to when you were buying your first pre-workout, dude.
Hmm.
Like, you've got to be that consumer again. Because I've just heard about this product Stampede in the gym. The first thing I want to do is go onto this website and I want to know what this Stampede's all about. So I want to know, it's like, wow, I'm going to take this and it tastes great. And then I'm going to start to get this burst, like boost of energy and mental clarity will come through. Then when I'm in the gym, I'll start to get this focus. And when I'm picking a weight up, like all of a sudden, my muscles are contracting harder, and my mind to muscle connection's crazy. My force production's crazy. I just hit a PR, and I look down, and I'm starting to get veins that I've never had before, and I'm like, I just hit a fucking PR. What's going on? But I'm not tired. I want to go again. And it's that feeling of euphoria. And you leave the gym and you're not taxed, you're not burnt out, you're not coming down, there's no
Mm.
jitters, you're hella focused still at the end of the session. And you're like, I just want to tell everyone how fucking awesome this session was. I want to go and train again, but hey, come and train with me tomorrow. You've got to try this pre-workout. Like, I had the best session ever. And that's the experience that you need to tell people about, because that's what you feel when you take this product. And that's what I felt when I took this product. It's what made me so excited. So I took that. I mean, guys, you can put an IV in my vein with caffeine. I ain't gonna feel shit. I live on caffeine. But when I took this, it was like someone had just flicked a switch, and I was in there, and literally my first sets with that, my strength went up by like 20, 25%. I was putting an extra plate on. I was like, holy shit. That contraction is so intense. And I was just crawling in. I'm like, oh, this is game over. This is lights out. And that was the first time I took it. And I think I shot Joey a message or a picture. I'm like, oh, bro, this is like, it's game over, you know? But that's
Hmm.
the excitement that we have to like put into words and put on our website and web text. And it's been really hard for me to do and like tap back into that to get the message out
Yeah.
there. And like Joey the same, because he's so well versed in this industry and he knows material like ingredient profile so well, he knows products so well. It's easy to skim over that. It's just like this and this and this, like the business side. It's like we've got to flip back and be the consumer again and be excited about using our products.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's it's just like something you just almost you kind of forget because you put a different hat on, and now you're on the business side of just making it. You don't almost put the hat on as like, well, if I'm a consumer, like I want to read about this. I want to know how this is feeling before I take it. It's like it's almost like you guys you see a commercial. The commercial makes you excited before you even get the product in your hand, which is already going to trigger all those effects. So it's like we had to, literally this morning, guys. Like we're writing the description for our website this morning, 7 a.m. this morning. Like Joe's time in Dubai, completely different nighttime. Like we're doing this before the launch. And like I said, like Joe spit me something, I spit something back, and Joe's like, no, listen, you got to put yourself in a different driver's seat here. And it's like sometimes me and Joe, like the way we talk to each other, sometimes our dialogues get written wrong. And like, Joe shot me a message like, "Hey man, don't take that in the wrong way." I was like, "No, dude, like this is a learning curve. Like the learning doesn't even stop yet. Like even to me, the learning doesn't even stop yet. Like, yeah, I've done my first product. Well, what does that mean? Like, oh, cool, I can develop a line? Absolutely not. Like this is something that I can say, guys, is another feather in my hat. I've learned so much. I continue to learn. It's almost like being coachable. Like you got to be fucking coachable, guys. So you almost like you always have to realize you don't know it all. Even if you do something once and you land it, you still don't know it all. So it was cool this morning to actually like take a step back and be like, fuck, damn, this dude's right. Like I'm like not even thinking of like a consumer setting of even to like to deliver a description to where you read it and you're clicking to buy because of that description. So it's cool. It's like I said, guys, it's a forever learning curve. You will always, learn and learn and learn, but this is how our relationship is developed. Like we're now in a position to where like I'm gonna be honest, like, Joe's taught me things over the years, like, whether it's some dieting things or whether it's like looking at different things of business and aspects of business. But like through half of 2023, I'm going to say half of it because like through half of 23, the beginning was a little bit bumpy just for the brand, but through half of 2023, Joe's taught me actually, a shitload. And I just regurgitate and learn all of it, man. That's always something I've like kind of just had for myself, which I could hopefully bounce this off to everybody who listens to this. You just always got to learn. Like, don't think because you found the answer that's the only answer, or don't think that the answer that you found is the one that's the only one sitting there. Because now you spin around and you're being in a position like where I'm at, where you're going to learn so many aspects of business, and every business is different, and every aspect of each business is completely different. But this is where the relationships develop. This is where, now that me and Joe sit here in this relationship with each other, we're now in a position where, unlike Joe always doing everything by himself, he's almost like a teacher as well at this point in time, because like now he gets to do it with me, I get to do it with him, but at the same point in time he's teaching me things along the way that like I would have never learned. I like you would never learn these things. And in reality, check this out. If I was to do my own brand and I was to go through this process, right? I would go through years of probably positives, negatives, you know, success and failures and all this stuff. But it's like, because that's what Joe did. That's exactly what he did going through this. But him teaching me is allowing me to roll right with him and be able to excel. Because one day when I step into the leader position here at this company, I'm literally going to be in a different mindset as an individual. And I can actually purely say that because, I might know a lot of things, but there's a lot of things in this world I don't know. And there's a lot of things that I am excited to know. And, this is really, really cool aspects to where, you can be a teacher and a student in a relationship, and you can take constructive criticism well. You can take literally somebody else's opinions well. Because, like, guys, even in our relationship setting with me and Joe, like, let's be real. Like, Joe will say something, and, like, in the beginning, like, I'll say it. Listen, I'll shoot a spade a spade. In the beginning, it was all like, yes, 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 yes. And it took me many years to be able to be like, well, instead of saying no, how about I just say like, well, how about this? And a couple of the ideas that I've said actually have done really well, or we've actually maybe looked at something in a different way. And like that's another difference in this relationship because now I'm actually able to say something to Joe and not be worried about like maybe getting shut down. Or I can say something to Joe and he actually listens and hears me now. And this is how another key part of this relationship has definitely changed to where Joe looks at me for, not just as a sales guy or a person in his company, not just like, his younger brother. Like he looks at me as a business partner. And I hope you guys really understand what I just said. You don't look at somebody as their employee. Now you fast forward, not look at somebody as like their little brother as you're taking them through and you want to provide them with a job. You look at them as your business partner. That's that's the evolution of where we've essentially landed ourselves.
And
Big
that's
time.
like every week as well, guys. That's like not a one-off. I mean, Joey actually messaged me. I'm kind of lost. Is it Monday? I think it was Friday, and he's just like, "Hey, what do you think about doing this for the Arnolds?" I'm just like, "Yeah, do it, perfect." Like he's
Yep.
thinking ahead for things and putting things on the table, and now I don't even think twice. Like, great idea, run with it. And I know that I can just say that to him, and it'll get done, which
Yep.
is really nice. I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to the rest of our team as well. What Joey doesn't realise is that he's already taken a leadership role and he's managing a team, and that's been the most rewarding thing for me. Yes, I've given him a lot of responsibility for him to do things on this product, but what he's done while he's being focused on executing those is he's had Pete, who is his subordinate in sales, who he is mentoring and guiding. He's gone through a product launch through wholesale with Pete and had him really kick some ass in the first 2 weeks of a product launch. Like Pete's actually gone out and slammed it. He's
Fuck yeah,
hustling, he's
man.
picking up new accounts. Like he's growing at such a rapid rate, and that's because Joey's doing such a great job of leading him. And I take great pride in seeing Joey lead somebody else and pass that on, and seeing Pete develop. It's just a
Hmm.
trickle down effect. And then on the flip side as well, the work he's done with Nick in graphics, and then have Sarah, who is running our social media, just unprompted. She has, what do you think to this, guys? Ideas, 2 weeks of social media mapped out for the launch, like post planned, sends over a schedule for me in Dubai. Hey, this is a list of content. What do you think that we need to get from Dubai while you're out there? Like all of our team now, I think the penny has dropped where they realize they have a crucial part to play in the brand, not in being employees, but by contributing to the brand as with ideas and on the brand strategy and bringing ideas to the table, and we welcome them. Like you can never have too many sets of eyes and too many bringing ideas, well thought out ideas, not dumbass don't think them through ideas. Like thankfully we don't have any of that. They're all well thought through ideas. But watching the team develop and grow. I mean, Nick stepped up levels. His all this artwork you
Yeah.
see, like with the balls, the imagery, that's Nick, and he was going through a bit of a rough spell with us. I feel he's kind of at a bit of a sticking point, and he took it upon himself to go and take external courses without telling me, Joey, or anybody to up his game and level up. And we're on the fucking Levels podcast, and he's leveled up himself because he recognized that we needed more from him on creative, and he didn't need to be told. I mean, when you have
Hmm.
those type of people, you really look after them because you know they're invested in the brand and they're willing to invest in themselves to give more back to the brand. And it's been the same with the evolution of Sarah. And I spoke about her before. Like she's going to be an absolute badass in marketing, and she's starting to find her groove and find her feet now. So just this product launch has just been great for the whole team because I feel like everybody has taken on more responsibility and absolutely smashed it.
Yeah. Because if we wouldn't have these people, with the company guys, like, you know, Joe has released amazing products, and guess what? They've barely caught any traction, like barely, because like all the chips weren't in order. Maybe the social graphics weren't good, or maybe the social media content wasn't developed or actually executed properly for a launch. Like you look at these things, and like it all comes down to a fundamental team, like Joe says, and everybody being able to level up in their job and do what they are doing to be able to execute better. And that's why, and I'm going to say it right now, Joe doesn't even know the number, and I'm not going to really, I want to put numbers out there yet, but literally, this was the best launch in our first week that I've been here at a company. No matter what we have launched, this by far is the best. And so far, we've already gotten orders this morning. And so far, like I even said to Pete, because Pete was bringing in new accounts. Pete was dropping in orders. I even said to him, he's like, "How much should we sell?" I'm like, "Bro, we didn't even get a chance to reach out to everybody yet." Like, I got off the podcast and literally was like, it was funny. Sarah was like, "Yo, you never text me the whole day." I'm like, I was on call after call after call after call, and it feels good because when everything is done right and we get the response back from our customers and our retailers of the excitement, guys, like talk about a fucking grand slam. You know what I mean? Because like we can be excited over here about a product and releasing it, but like when you guys are excited and we see like you're tagging us in your post, you're buying the product, the support, all that shit makes us just that's what really capitalizes us over here. Because listen, Joe or myself, Joe can create some of the craziest shit on the market, be able to create some of the most state of the art, ahead of the science curve, whatever you want to say. If it never provokes a response from the consumers, then in reality it's not as celebrated as how it should be, if as you could say. But it's like it's been executed across the team, and we'll dip back right back into it, and we'll keep really alliterating on this relationships. My relationships allowed certain things in this company to happen. My relationship with Sarah allowed me to be able to have a relationship, for now me to bring it up and be like, "Hey Joe, like how do you feel about maybe Sarah taking over some social media stuff?" That relationship provided a job for Sarah, and now Sarah's leveled up and now she's doing her own thing to a point where, guys, we had a marketing company. They're gone. Now it's in house. Like Pete. Pete was my client. Ah, Jesus, I don't know, Pete. Like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, like I don't know. Pete was one of my first ever. Pete seen me. This is crazy shit. Joe don't even notice. When we all went to the Olympia for our like AD to walk around and chill out there, it was like actually my first one. I was actually in prep for my first show. This was back in 2019, where I was just dead at the Olympia.
You were
We
buried, I
were.
remember that.
True. Listen, when you walk around the expo and everybody's like, "When's your show?" I think that almost sounds it as like you're there. Wearing a hoodie while you're in Vegas, you're there. Um, but it was cool because I was walking around and I actually seen Pete at the Olympia, and Pete was my client. And it's crazy to see that like over the course of time, Pete's now become a client. He turned into one of my friends. Then he turned into one of my close friends because he's been with me for so many years, and we, just shared time together. And now Pete went, he graduated from, Penn State. Pete was already doing some stuff in medical sales, just to get into business. And literally there was an opportunity where we needed another sales guy because Joe was like, "Listen, man, you're going to really start to elevate here." And he's like, "I'm going to pull you into a different spot in this company you probably never thought." And I was like, "Well, who are we going to get for a sales guy?" Well, guess what? My relationship with Pete, I always told him if I could do something for him, I'm going to do it. Because when I had my other good friend, which a lot of you people know, Gage, that's like my little brother right there. When that kid allowed me to coach him, I've coached him from scratch. I've coached him from his first show. I've posed with him. I've literally helped build that kid's career with him by my side. And guess what? We went and got a pro card together. He was my first ever pro. That kid also got a signed contract that same day from Joe as a surprise. My relationships of how it coincided to how this kid is now an athlete of our company. He's my first pro to compete. Relationships. And the same thing for Pete. He turned into a position where now my relationship with Pete allowed me to now provide him a job. And now, and Pete was never in the supplement industry. Pete had no idea about supplement sales. But guess what? Able to talk to Pete, do some shit with Pete along the way, give Pete freedom to be able to learn on his own and do things on his own. It's like, we can do sales trips all together all the time. But at some point in time, you got to cut the leash and let the kid do his thing. And you know what? Same as everybody. My relationship brought him here, but now he's leveled up and now he's crushing as a sales rep. And now the goal is one day that man's going to fulfill a national sales rep position and he's going to have somebody to oversee and look under him. But he's leveled up drastically, like Joe said, and be able to come up into an industry he's never been a part of. I get to learn and teach underneath me and bring him along the way. And now the man's crushing it. So it's really awesome to see how your relationships will provide you something. And your relationships will provide you something that might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but how about 3-4 years down the road? Right? Like, how about if one relationship that you had, say for instance, one relationship Joe has had since 2009 has benefited us in 2024 to grab some ingredients to release in a pre workout? You can't, guys, you got to understand. You ain't going to learn that in a college. You're not going to pay for that with a dollar amount. Because at the end of the day, if it was about money, somebody could overstep and go put more money on somebody else's table and will always beat you. Because somebody's always got more money. But somebody always doesn't have a better relationship. And that just really goes to shine and really go to show across the board from every aspect of what we touched on so far, for sure.
I
Now,
think that kind of brings it home, guys. Like the key take home
mhm,
from this whole podcast is like this has all come about from identifying identifying people you can invest in and being very loyal and being loyal to them and having trust. And but be very careful who you do invest in. Make sure that you're getting something
yes,
back, making sure it's reciprocated. I
yes,
mean, Joe has invested as much in me as I've invested in him. He's turned down other job offers. He could have walked at any given point, and he said no. He said no. He said no because he trusted me. I have his best intentions for his career, and not just his career, his personal life, his whole life in general. I have his best
mhm,
intentions at heart, and I want to see him, hit all of his goals in bodybuilding. I want to see him be very financially successful, stable. I want him to have as much money as he wants. I want him to have the family life that he wants. And you find those people, you keep hold of them. And it's very difficult in this day and age because social media and instant gratification is what everyone's being conditioned to.
yeah,
And I'm a very old school, traditional kind of guy with my business relationships. I mean, that's why I'm out here in Dubai, which you'll see just what
yes.
what developing relationships can garner. And it's been quite surprising for the guys out here in Dubai. I know it's like smack them between the eyes because they didn't expect that because we came out for Dubai Muscle and I looked them in the eye and said, I'm going to be back again in 4 weeks. And you always get that hype. You always, when
Mhm.
people are having a good time, when they're over here visiting a new country, you're going out for nice meals, you're being treated well. It's like, yeah, we'll come back, we'll do it all again. I have the same conversations with everyone at the Arnold, the same conversations at the Olympia. We'll have to do this, we'll have to, no, nothing ever happens. But when I turn up and then I put a proposition on the table and we spend more time together, and those I'm investing in the right people. And I know it's really surprised them to have that like so quickly. And
Mhm.
you'll see that in the first episode that's dropping soon of Behind the Brand. There's a lot of stuff that's happened this last 2 or 3 weeks just being out here, which is going to change the whole shape and face of this company.
Big time. Big time. Because you said, man, like, and I'm going to just tap on a little bit. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But, Joe brought up a really good point. And this is something I'm going to tell you right now. I pride myself in. I really pride myself in. I've been very fortunate. I've created a really good name for myself in this industry. Like I said, I didn't go to school for this. I got a lot of people asking me like, "Hey, what'd you go to school for?" And I'm like, "Well, guess what? How about I get really real? Okay, I went to school for criminal justice because my dad and my grandfather at the time, we all go to an Italian banquet. We sit with very high of up level people. I'm around a lot of state cops, the PA state commissioner, everything. So they wanted me to be a state cop. I didn't really know what I wanted to do out of school. So like I ended up just going to school for criminal justice. And and going through criminal justice, that's really where I ended because I only did that for a year and a half because I was, doing some other dumb shit while going to school. And that was it. So I didn't really go to school for really anything. I don't have a degree in anything. I don't. I have a year and a half at our community college, and that's about it. And I got my high school diploma, of course. But being in this industry, like I said, I built my good reputation. I just, I developed a lot of great relationships. I've met a lot of phenomenal people and done a lot of great things. And like to be honest, man, like I've always just treated people good. So like I was able to have a very good reputation in this industry. I've only been a demo rep, a demo rep at GAT Sports. I was that for 2 years. And that was when they were like one of the biggest, in my opinion. Then I got a job at Run Everything. After Run Everything, I'm here. As I've been here over the course of years, I've gotten multiple job opportunities. I've gotten calls from, very high up people from their companies looking for me to fulfill a nice slot. Um, and I've literally never returned a call. I even jumped on a call, I'll never forget. It was the show that I put Gage in for where he won his first overall in Virginia. Before we walked down to go to prejudging, I was on a phone call with somebody to go work for another supplement brand. And I was with AD. And I was on a phone call, shooting a show with him, going over it, talking about things, and then, got off the phone call and Gage was like, "So what's up? What are you gonna do?" I was like, "Bro, I ain't taking a job." I said, "But I'm gonna just entertain the phone call just because the guy that I was trying to offer me a job was very nice, and I was just respecting his time." But I wasn't leaving. I wasn't leaving. Because me and Joe, and I don't know if Joe remembers this, but you know, I ended up meeting Joe and we actually got to actually talk when Joe actually was like, "So you want a job?" and actually offered it to me. I was in a former person's pool and Joe was sitting outside the pool and we were shooting the shit. And just with Joe's communication to me and how he talked to me, I knew he really actually cared. And at that point, I invested myself in my time, but I also invested into the fact that, like, Joe told me I was going to go far places, 5 years ago. And I knew Joe's reputation at that point, and Joe has a really good reputation. And like to be honest, like there's not really a bad thing of Joe. Like whatever he says, it pretty fucking much is what he says. So even though I got all these job opportunities and all these job offers and shit, and there was actually very one person that offered me a job. I talked to him on the phone, and you know I never that was a hard one for me because I really wasn't happy here at AD. I really wasn't close with Joe at all. Um, I just didn't like the way things were going, and I really just wasn't happy. And I got another job offer from a very high up brand and a brand that's doing absolutely phenomenal. And they live close to my mother in Florida, which is another hard decision. But I highly respect this man. I still am actually able to say I'm very friends with this man. I think he's crushing it in business, and he's also a really good person to watch. But he was gonna fly me out to go hang out with him and his team for an entire week. I would be in Florida, which I want to. Of course, people know I want to have a second house in Florida. I want to be down there as a half, be like a little snowbird. But before I took that flight and before I even said anything about coming over to them, I respectfully told this individual that I'm going to go see Joe and I'm going to go talk to Joe first. Because at the end of the day, like, that's just how I am. I'm going to go and see about things before I jump ship. That's just not me. And to be honest, guys, guess what? If I would have took that flight, I probably would have took that job because I would have been down in the area where I wanted to be. I would have been surrounded by like-minded individuals, and I would have been probably in some really cool atmosphere and to sway me a little bit. But I took a flight to see Joe. I hung out with Joe for literally, I think it was like 2 days, nothing crazy, down in Tampa. And I just sat there on the couch and I was like, "Listen, man, I just want this," which is pretty much the slot that I was filling in. I was like, "Just give me this." And bro, I'm here and I'm moving up and I ain't got to go nowhere. And Joe at this time didn't even know that I had multiple opportunities on the table. And I even had, more money on the table. Like, legit, guys, I had more motherfucking money on the table. Sorry for like popping off here, but like, when there's more money on the table, I'm going to tell you right now, 95% of the people are going to switch. They're going to sway their mind. They're going to change their judgment because money's money. And that's what a lot of this world goes around. But now that I sat here and, I didn't really have to go after money. I went after a relationship and went after a point where I felt like this man has my best intentions. And we weren't even this close, guys. We were not even remotely this close. I took the same thing. You took a shot on people that are taking a shot on you. And guess what? Now I sit here in a position that I would never in my remote mind be in another company. And I can honestly 1,000% say that. And I would tell you that. I know that. You give people a shot. And now look, this man here is my family. Now I'm sitting here in a position where I'm next to him in his own brand that he started in 2009 when your boy graduated high school. Like, I'm now here. And it's like, if I chose money, it wouldn't be here. But I chose a relationship at that moment in time that I knew it would get better and I know we would grow more. And me being in this position now, was a step in that right direction. And Joe never knew that till literally like, pretty recent when I actually told him some shit. We had some deep conversations about some shit. And I told him, listen, man, like I've actually passed up a lot of job opportunities and I passed up a lot of job opportunities that were paying me probably double the money. But guess what, man? Money ain't everything. Joe knows what I want. Joe knows how I feel. And now I can literally sit here and be like, loyalty and trust in that relationship has paid more than any dollar could have ever paid me. Because you could have gave me $1 million to work at another job, but guess what? That job's no longer there. You could have given me whatever shit you wanted. I can literally sit here and say that I'm truly happy at this company. I'm able to provide another job position for my girlfriend in this company. I'm able to put a job position as a pro athlete for one of my best friends in the world and my little brother. And then my other best friend in the world, Pete, I'm able to provide him a job here. You're telling me I would have been able to do this at another job? Nope. I might have not even ever been with my significant other if I would have moved to Florida. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? Like what a relationship really, really does. And like Joe said, it's not about the now. It's not about the year down the road. Anything that I've had and anything that Joe has had, these relationships are years. These relationships are advanced. And guess what? Our relationship that what Joe's doing in Dubai, which he will go further into the podcast about, which I hope you guys tune in. It'll be super exciting just to get more of the business back end where Joe can dive hard into the business side. Those guys, we came out to Dubai to support them. We flew out on our own dime and our own dollar to go support people who support our brand in Dubai. These guys are incredible, which literally I know everybody's asked me in Dubai because everybody over here is like, is Dubai okay? Like, I know the Middle East. I'm like, guys, listen, you should just go over there because the Middle East is absolutely incredible and Dubai is phenomenal. But these guys invested in us and Joe went and invested in them. And now look, Joe's already went back. He's been there for a couple of weeks and that relationship is probably going to be completely and utterly strong than even the first time me and him just went out. And it's all about developing a relationship. And that relationship has now just opened a massive door to change this company that Joe started in 2009. So I hope you guys take a lot of takeaways from this relationships episode number 2 of this podcast. Because whether myself or Joe can sit here and tell you, like, man, these relationships really provide, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's a significant other, or whether it's a business venture in another country, whatever it of course may be, or even sitting here with somebody who was an employee who is now family and is now almost a partner to you. I hope you guys take some stuff away for real. Because either myself or Joe will tell you, relationships is one of the biggest business and one of the biggest life things you could ever think of.
Yeah,
So
and
that's it
just
for
to
me, man,
close
a
it
little
out,
bit.
just to close that out, guys, loyalty in relationships were really stressed that, but on the counter side, just to give you guys some balance just before we leave it, because I don't want you to only have one viewpoint. Like always assess the situation and always
Mhm.
look if investing in that person is right, and by which what drives me forward and why I'm doing all these things and why I'm unrelenting and I don't rest and I've got 1,000,001 projects always going on. And now Joey understands that and he sees it. If I wasn't doing that and I was just parked, just doing AD, just doing supplements, not branching out into other things, where's the progression for Joey to step into? There, it's
Hmm.
there isn't. What's he going to do? Just sit next to me? I'm I push myself forward to go into new areas to grow the business and new businesses so I can leave gaps for people to take over. Joey is going to run the company. He knows that. I've told him that so many times. But what am I going to do? I'm going to go and build the next thing. And Joey will no doubt pass over the reins because he'll always be one of the guys who walks with me in new areas. He knows everything that I'm doing right now, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's out here with AD, whether it's in foods, everything that we've got going on. He knows how many projects are spinning, and that's
Yep.
intentional. So he understands that he needs to keep learning and evolving and be close to me so he can walk with me. So he can see the opportunities to lead for the people who he has around him and the opportunities that are going to come after that. So if I was just sat here and saying, "Hey, I'm just going to release another product for AD. We're going to release 2 products this year," like there's not a ton of growth for Joey. But
Mm.
because we're going in so many different areas, like everybody in this company, there's no glass ceiling. I tell everybody around me, even my athletes, like there's opportunities for you to step into business. Just learn, be loyal, and stick with it, and you'll see. If people have glass ceilings for you, you can't progress. So always assess the situation, and if you don't understand the situation, if your relationship's that strong, you should be able to sit down with that person and ask them and truly get a true life lay of the land from them because they'll be honest with you, and that's how you should be judging your relationships. If you can have difficult conversations with them, then you know you're with the right people.
10/10, brother. Absolutely. So I guess on that note, we'll do the sign off. Appreciate you guys. Thank you all for tuning in for the second episode of Levels Podcast.
I'll go online and
This is
dive
going to be cool.
stampede.
Yeah, that's it. In a couple of hours,
It's
y'all be ready to
live
take it away,
now.
rock and roll. That's it.
While it lasts,
Um,
because
so yes,
Joey
grab
and Pete are
yours.
pretty much sold out. Cheers, guys.
Pretty close. Pretty close. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. This is the second episode of the Levels Podcast for myself and Joe. Thank you all for everything, and stay tuned. Episode 3 in the works.